On today's show, Andrew Cristall is the first player in the league to make it to a 100 points, and Hendrix Lapierre is the AHL's Player of the Week.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the Capitals as they prepare to get back in action this weekend. And one player in particularly is ready to go. I'm talking about Alex Ovechkin. What has he been up to as of late? I'll talk about that a bit later. I'll talk about Hendrix Lapierre. It was just in the last episode that I was talking about, would he be a prime candidate for the Capitals to trade? What did he do? Well, it was named the AHL's Player of the Week. And then I'll talk about Andrew Cristall, the first player to 100 points, and that is where I will start talking about Andrew Cristall and the bright future that surrounds him. He was one of the last players cut during training camp. Many people thought to themselves, is he going to make the team? Was it the right thing? Entry-level contract. There were a lot of balls in the air. Was it the right move? And at the end of the day, yes, I think it was the right move. That he spent one more season in the juniors. But with that said, with the production that we have seen from him playing now with the Spokane Chiefs, before that the Kelowna Rockets, he very well could have been able to join the team this season. He is taking off like a rocket to the moon, and an exciting prospect to watch, a Capitals prospect, kind of in that same breath as Ryan Leonard. That you think the Capitals are good this season. I think the future is going to be even brighter going forward. But just to take a look at the back of his hockey card, if you will, in 44 games played, 39 goals, 64 assists. That is good for 103 points. A lot to like about Mr. Cristall's game and how he has grown by leaps and bounds. Some of the concerns that we had about him were his size. He addressed that. Some people worried about his skating, his straight line strength, his explosive bursts of speed. He addressed that as well. And he is firing on all cylinders and is going to be a bright spot. But let's dig into Andrew Cristall and what he has done. The 20-year-old winger has been making waves this season and just recently became the first player in the league to hit 100 points. Quite something. And 103 points to be more specific, just really taking it to the next level. And, again, to talk about that again, that was it the right move to send him back down to the juniors? Well, ultimately, if you don't know, well, then you should know, is that at the time he was too young to be sent to the AHL's Hershey Bears. So that is why he is where he is at. But just my take on it, just sticking my finger to the air to kind of get the way the wind is blowing and the temperature, if you will, I think there is a distinct possibility that he makes next year's roster. Quite exciting. And even if that doesn't happen, he can still play pro hockey with Hershey. Now, he achieved this milestone during the Spokane Chiefs' 6-3 win over the Tri-City Americans, where he assisted on 2 goals. And just lighting it up. That team in particular, the Spokane Chiefs, are doing really great things this season. And talking about that record-breaking performance with a remarkable total at the time of 101 points from 37 goals and 64 assists in 43 games. The one thing is apparent is Cristall is proving himself as the top offensive talent across the entire CHL. And the good thing, well, he is a Capitals prospect, and sooner than later, I have a feeling he will be donning a Capitals jersey and really take this team to the next level, just in time for the changing of the guard. What do we know? Ovi's going to be here this year, next year, that by the time he hangs up the skates, it's going to be the likes of Leonard and Cristall playing a big role with his team. Now, what's particularly impressive that he reached the century mark at the 6:51 left in the game, setting up Owen Martin for a crucial goal. So quite something there, picking up 100 points in that game with a lot of significance. You know, you take a look at what he has accomplished. And I think that he is a guy that set his mind on improving the things that the Capitals said that he needed to work on. He later added another assist to Shea Van Olm for an empty netter, sealing the game. But a standout amongst prospects. If you take a look at it, there are a lot of players on the cusp of doing great things. You know, I've talked about some of the different players with Ryan Leonard and what's going on at Boston College, that this next wave of young players, I think, is going to be some of the best that we have ever seen. But, you know, what's more interesting to note is that Cristall is only the second player in the CHL to surpass the 100-point mark this season, following Michael Misa from the OHL's Saginaw Spirit. So in elite company at this level, he is doing it better than next to no one. However, Cristall is ahead in points per game with an impressive rate of 2.35 compared to Misa's 2.12, and he's accomplished this in 7 fewer games. So time to get hyped, Capitals fans, as he is exactly what we thought and then some. That some people thought, you know, does he even have a future in the NHL? And who thought that? I had the Locked On NHL Prospects guys on last season. And at the time, you know, they were judging it based on what they saw. Is there was questions if he was going to ever be NHL ready. Here to tell you, he is going to be NHL quality. And last season, Cristall also had a stellar season with Kelowna racking up 111 points. But the thing that's different this year versus last year is that if he continues on this clip right now, he is on track to finish this season with around 134 points. Quite something for the young guy, and that is ultimately something to be excited about. But you know, it's not just that. He also is in somewhat of a select category as well, as one of 3 Capitals players to have to wear the bubble, the aquarium on the front, as he got involved in some high stick activity during the game against Tri-City. He took a high stick to the mouth, but didn't let that hold him back. The very next game, he donned that full bubble face shield and not only scored the game winner against the Kamloops, but also added an empty net goal to help secure a 4-2 victory. Undeterred, did not let anything stand in his way, continues to be lights out. But it's also worth mentioning that Cristall isn't the only Capitals prospect using the bubble face shield this season. Ryan Leonard, of course, also had to wear one due to a broken nose at the World Juniors. And the big guy himself, number 43, Tom Wilson, also sported one earlier this year after a facial injury. So, you know, and I've talked about it ad nauseum on the show, if they should wear more facial protection in general. You know, just based on this, you know, all those bubbles. And, you know, you take a look at what happened with Carl Hagelin, that sometimes you think to yourself, I know that aesthetically, maybe it's not as pleasing to have that clear visor, or excuse me, to have the full fence on the front. But I think that something of that nature is what is going to be needed to help protect these NHL talents and prospects. But as far as the future of Cristall is concerned, is definitely one to keep your eye on. If you are someone that, you know, just pays attention to the Capitals and that's it, well, maybe widen the lens a little bit and circle Ryan Leonard, Cristall, Cole Hudson, these kind of players, definitely a part of the next wave of Capitals players. Again, some of them are going to be ready for the Capitals sooner than others, but excitement abounds for what lies ahead for this Caps team. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Hendrix Lapierre, former first-round pick. Hasn't really found his way The Capitals have tried to retread that tire again and again and again. And what happened? Well, he burst on the scene in the last game, being named the AHL's Player of the Week. But my big concern is it sustainable? And is it going to be sustainable for Hendrix Lapierre? I'll discuss straight ahead. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they've packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no salt variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to snack. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in this next segment here, talking about Hendrix Lapierre, former first-round pick, of course, was on the Capitals this season, and the feeling was that this season was going to be the season for Hendrix Lapierre. Tell me if you've heard that one before, that oftentimes he can kind of blow up and do really great things, but that flame is quickly extinguished, and then we're left wondering, what kind of player do we have? And he kind of just really blew up on the scene here as of late. And there's this renewed feeling, is this the time? Is Lapierre finally found his groove? For me, I think that it's good that he found his way. He's putting up goals, he's putting up points, but is it sustainable? That has always been the Achilles heel of Hendrix Lapierre, is that he can do great things in glimpses, but putting together numbers in consecutive games or stretches of games to prove that you are NHL ready. And if the feeling is that he is not NHL ready, I think we're at the point with Hendrix Lapierre, despite the fact that he has been named the AHL's Player of the Week. That's a good thing. Let's hear it for Hendrix Lapierre, but maybe we could take a player like that, trade him to boost this team for their playoff hopes this year. But let's dig into what he has done here as of late, giving him his full acknowledgement in what he has done. Hendrix Lapierre has been named the AHL Player of the Week for the period ending February 16th. Again, a great accomplishment, don't get me wrong, and it is a huge honor, especially since it's the first time a Hershey's player has lit up the league like this since Connor McMichael way back in 2021. Now, again, Connor McMichael was a guy that took a while to mature. He was a guy that former head coach Peter Laviolette didn't think was ready, but it's interesting how when you put a bit of confidence like Spencer Carberry did in Connor McMichael, what he did. But the one thing about Hendrix Lapierre is he did not take that same page from the book of Connor McMichael, of making the most of your opportunities. In a lot of ways, I don't think it's for a lack of trying. I just think that he has struggled with a lot of things a lot of former Capitals players have struggled with. When you go these large lengths of time without scoring goals, that sometimes your confidence is shattered. Think Anthony Mantha, think Alex Ovechkin, even to start last season, that sometimes you can be one of the greatest players in the world, but if you are not exuding confidence, then sometimes you can struggle. And I think at the end of the day, he is benefiting from, maybe less pressure playing for the Bears, that he doesn't feel like he has to light it up. You're not gripping that stick as tight. You're not like having the attitude that I have to impress everyone out there, that I think it's probably flowing a little bit more naturally. But it was a turnaround for Lapierre after a bit of a slow start to this season at only 23 years old. Of course, remember, was drafted in the first round of the 2020 draft. Things have turned around, at least as of late. In just 2 games this week, Lapierre racked up 5 points with 2 goals and 3 assists. Again, to circle back, sustainable. Let's see if he can continue to keep scoring goals. I don't expect him to put up 5 goals every 2 games or anything like that. But if he could continue, putting up goals on a more regular clip, more assists, then I think there is a potential for him. But I still, right now, despite, the recent, explosion there, I don't think that he's NHL ready right now. He finally broke through. He had that long goalless drought, 38-game goalless drought that spanned between the NHL and the AHL. So this was a good time for Hendrix to get off the schneid. But then on Saturday, he not only scored the overtime game winner, but also had 2 assists, including a key secondary assist on the Bears' game-tying goal in the waning moments of the third period. Now, the big thing is, his stellar performance were critical in leading the Bears to back-to-back victories, a team that is looking for a goal scorer that it seems in a lot of ways like Hendrix Lapierre is the right player at the right time to be playing in the American Hockey League for the Hershey Bears. And I know that he is playing well in Hershey. I just want to see more of that when he gets his opportunity with the Capitals. So the big question is what is next for Lapierre, and bigger picture, what is next for the Bears? It's going to be interesting to see, like I say, in the upcoming games here, if he can continue to keep growing with this momentum, or is it kind of like, how history repeats itself? There is an explosion and then it is extinguished, and then there's another goalless drought. That's what I think that Hendrix Lapierre needs to work on. But, to be clear here, he was a part of that third line for the Capitals that struggled. And, it seems like every player on that line struggled. The Capitals brought in Lars Eller. He wasn't the answer. Ethan Frank is the guy that has really kind of shown up and, changed that third line. So it's going to be interesting to see what lies ahead for Hendrix Lapierre. But, keep that in the back of your mind that I would not be surprised if Hendrix Lapierre is dealt between now and the trade deadline, despite what we have seen of him here late. Again, I'm glad that he's finding his way slowly, but at the end of the day, I think the Capitals need to view him as an asset to help bolster this team's playoff hopes. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the very latest with Alex Ovechkin and how he's raring to go, ready to get back in action, spending too much time sitting on the beach in Miami. It must be a rough life, huh? I'll talk about Ovi and what's next straight ahead. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. All right, in this next segment, we are talking the Great Eight, and we are talking what he's up to and how he is raring to go to get back in action. Recent reports have said that he is ready to go. He is ready for the remainder of the season. What do we know about Ovechkin? Chasing down Gretzky, and he has a year and change left under his current contract. It is time for him to make hay while the sun shines in his pursuit of catching Gretzky. But even more importantly, not more importantly, but in the same breath, let's say, is trying to win another Stanley Cup while he is on the active roster. I think, it seems like a goal that's way out there. But when you consider where the Capitals are right now and what they've accomplished, considering how everyone thought they were going to do nothing, I wouldn't rule it out. And that is quite something to say about this year's team, which many people perceived was going to go nowhere. But what's going on now? We know the Four Nations face-off. We know the physicality. We know the soap opera that's going on out on the ice. But most notably, Russian players were left out of this whole tournament, including Alex Ovechkin, who is enjoying a much-needed break, as he deserves. He had that lower leg injury, that fibula fracture, that this was a good time to get right. Like head coach Spencer Carberry said, he still was not 100%. Now, with no scheduled games for the Caps or Russia, Ovi is taking this opportunity to focus on physical fitness as he aims to break one of the most prestigious records in all of the NHL. And there was the video footage on socials about him, it was doing sit-ups and doing various exercises that he wants to be in his best shape. And taking a look at where he's at right now, doing the unthinkable thing at 39 years old, already putting up 26 goals and chasing down the great one. He needs only just 16 more, if you can believe it. It seems like it wasn't too long ago that it's, 100 goals or 80 goals. It's right around the corner. And that is what is exciting and what really has me excited about the Capitals getting back into action. But talking about his training during the break, he was training with Darius Kasparaitis. He's been training with that former star who recently commented on Ovechkin's relaxed demeanor amidst the record chase. He said, quote, "He is in a good mood. He does not think about any records. He just plays hockey," unquote. He is that Russian machine that never breaks. And I think that's the right attitude. I think that, for him, it means something different than it means for us. For us, we're Capitals fans and all of that, but he's living this experience. And I think that he looks at it differently. I think that he knows it's going to happen, but if he spends too much time getting involved about the whole chase, that's when he struggles. And that's when we've seen in the past where Alex Ovechkin deflects and saying, "Hey guys, it's important to me, but what's more important is this team winning another cup while I'm on the roster." So I think it's important for him to do that. Just play game by game, be in the best possible shape that he can possibly be in, and it'll just happen. He has surrounded himself with some really great players. Dylan Strome serving up those sweet passes, a roster that's the best it's been in years, that I think it's going to happen for Ovi and ultimately the Capitals this year. Now, that calm approach is not only beneficial for Ovi, but the Capitals. It's that carefree play. We saw him struggle a lot, actually, last year in the playoffs because I think he thought the team wasn't going to go anywhere. And I think that he was not calm in his mind. He was rattled. But if you don't know, the Capitals, of course, sit on top of the Eastern Conference, 36-11-8. And the view from on top of this hill is quite stunning. You can see all the small cities down there like Pittsburgh and Columbus and all these ones. Hey guys down there, it's me up here. But the Capitals season, quite something. And his contributions have been a huge part of this team's success. Leading the team in goals, of course, if he didn't have those kind of numbers, the Capitals probably would not be in the position that they're at right now. Again, it's a different team than previous years. It's built around him, that they're scoring up and down the lineup. It's not exclusively on his shoulders. And I think to a certain extent also that is why he's playing more carefree. Ovechkin has accumulated 43 points in 39 games and has been an incredible resilience after recovering from that lower body injury. Since making that return, he has netted 11 goals in just 21 games. So if you're thinking that there was any kind of leg there, that has been not the case. Kasparaitis also spoke about how Ovechkin balances work and relaxation, saying, quote, "This is not the Ovechkin of 20 years ago," unquote. So he is definitely going to take more time to heal. And from everything that we've seen, he looks to be in a really good spot. As we look ahead, the expectation is that Ovechkin will soon write his name in the record books by surpassing Gretzky's legendary mark, which I think is going to happen sooner than later. And achieving that would not only be monumental for the sport, but Ovechkin and the Capitals in general. So he is putting in that work, and I think the best version of Ovi, if you can believe it, at 39 years old than we have seen in years. So Capitals fans, I think it is going to happen sooner than later. It's just about being patient. And if this team can pick up the torch and play as well as they played before we went into the break, then it's a good thing. I guess part of the thing in the back of my mind is worried about, is there going to be any rust? Something of that nature, or is there going to be any leg or anything like that? It'll be interesting to see as we get closer to the weekend what condition that the Capitals are in. But my hope is that they're full go, that they can do that. They can pick up the torch and just keep that pedal to the metal and accumulate as many points as they possibly can. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL. They have you covered with all of your NHL news 5 days a week. You can get caught up on everything surrounding the NHL so you can get your NHL fix. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.